Well, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is accusing U.S. President Trump of, quote, coming after his family and friends. He says federal agents are demanding records of those close to him for no reason. Now, details of the investigation have not been fully disclosed, and there's been no word from Washington on the scope of this or the basis of the probe. Newsom, a prominent Democrat and a potential presidential contender, have strongly criticized the investigation.
In recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees. Not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents. Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president, because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries to reward cronies and to try to jail his opponents. His personal attorney now runs the Department of Justice, which has repeatedly gone after his political enemies.
All right, joining me now is Ethan Bearman. He's a California attorney, Loyola Law School lecturer, and a veteran media commentator on U.S. law and politics. Ethan, it's good to have you back on the program. Those were some strong words there that we just heard from Governor Newsom. He says that President Trump has directed the Justice Department to investigate him and his wife because he fears that Newsom may run for president in 2028. Now, if this is true, we're talking about something like a witch hunt, maybe abuse of power, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. If true, it is a witch hunt and abuse of power. And actually, this president in his second term has shown himself to use the Department of Justice as his own personal force to go after perceived political opponents. I mean, look, everybody from the New York State Attorney General Letitia James to the state of Georgia, which is he's already lost numerous lawsuits related to the 2020 election, to E. Jean Carroll, who won her lawsuit against this president. He has used the Department of Justice as a weapon of his own to use against perceived political enemies. And of course, Governor Gavin Newsom would be at the top of that list.
Well, Ethan, what though, if these accusations, what about them being maybe more bark than bite? Is the world witnessing Gavin Newsom testing the waters here for a run for the White House in 2028?
Yeah, I think he is actually a leading contender for the Democratic nomination to run in 2028. He will be termed out as governor of California here on January 4th of 2027. He has a very strong record over the last year or year and a half or so of going directly after the Trump administration and calling them out time and time again. So, yeah, I think he is a prime target for Donald Trump, for the Republicans, for this administration, because he very likely is a leading candidate for president in 2028.
Is Newsom, is he the model for how Democrats should fight Trump and Trump's legacy? Or is he just proof that the Democrats still lack a message other than opposing Trump?
Well, at this point, I mean, Donald Trump himself has given the Democrats all the messages that they need with these, so-called witch hunts. But most importantly are Donald Trump's own words as president, that he loves inflation. He doesn't care about what people is happening with their own economics at home, that people can suffer through high gas prices. Well, he starts wars without Congress on his side or the American people on his side, let alone what you were talking about earlier this hour with a potential deal in the Middle East. But he has used those words to say that what happens to the American people doesn't really matter to him. It's about his own personal enrichment this time around. Well documented, the billions of dollars that he has enriched himself, let alone his own family, through these dealings while he's president. This is quite possibly the most corrupt administration that the West has seen in the last 100 years.
Governor Newsom is fighting President Trump with Trump's own weapons. I mean, we've seen it, social media mockery, trolling, insults, and I grant you this gets a lot of attention, but it doesn't do anything to restore respect for America's politicians, does it? I mean, is this a race to the bottom that we're witnessing?
Well, it isn't a race to the bottom. And what's so important about that is while I completely agreed with then First Lady Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high, what we found in the interim is they will just continually go lower. So we need to fight fire with fire at some point. And that is exactly what Governor Gavin Newsom is doing. He is fighting fire with fire. As a matter of fact, if you go back to his visit to China and other international affairs, he is welcomed by other leaders from around the world because he is trying to stop what we see as the creeping, and some say not creeping, that outright move toward fascism and autocracy here in the United States, that we see somebody like Governor Gavin Newsom, who leads what is now an economy even larger than Germany's as California continues to grow under his leadership. That is a lead toward democracy, a restoration of democracy. And sometimes you actually defeat the bully with a punch to the nose.
What would you say this spectacle that we're seeing right now, what does it do to America's democratic credibility abroad?
Well, that really rests on the Republicans in Congress and this administration who have, thrown out all of our traditional allies and threatened NATO, Denmark, Canada. We can go on and on. Israel now, as of today, potentially. That rests with this administration, not with the Democrats, who bluntly, outside of Governor Newsom, have done a very feeble job of fighting this administration. I don't have a lot of kind words to say about the Democratic leadership in Washington, D.C. in the face of the onslaught of this administration. So I really do see Governor Gavin Newsom as being a leader in this fight, as restoring our international relationships with our traditional and natural allies like NATO and Europe. And I just see him as being the leader in that right now. I can't name somebody else in the Democratic Party right now who has his kind of fight and leadership skills.
Let me ask you, Ethan, before we run out of time, at the end of the day, does Gavin Newsom, does he need Donald Trump? I mean, if you take Trump out of the equation, is Gavin Newsom just another ambitious governor who happens to have, as most governors do, a mixed record?
That's a fantastic question, Brent. Here, you're probably right. If he didn't have President Trump, he might just be another governor that goes off and does things at the end of when he's termed out as governor. However, leaders rise in the moment. And right now, he is rising to the challenge of this Trump administration. And as a result, he absolutely is getting the opportunity to run for higher office and that exposure therein. And with this perceived possible, witch hunt against him, this further makes him rise up in the eyes of the nation in this challenge of taking on the administration. What's going to happen at the end in the 2028 election? But you're absolutely right. Without Trump, he might have just gone on to be a consultant, or like Governor Jerry Brown has done, just kind of gone off to the ranch and enjoyed his life. But it is the time of Trump, and Governor Newsom is a perfect foil for Donald Trump. And I think that this really gives Gavin Newsom the opportunity to show what he is capable of. And I'm excited to see what can happen here.
I've got 20 seconds, Ethan. Yes or no? Will Gavin Newsom, will he be the Democratic nominee for the presidential race in 2028?
I'm not a prognosticator, so I can't say that he will be, but as of right now, he sure looks to be the strongest candidate. Absolutely.
All right. But we will not be looking for you on Polymarket then if you're not a betting man. Ethan, always good to have you on the show. We appreciate your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brent. Really great to see you.